chat.
For years working in media, I took reading and writing for granted. Only when my son Billy reached age 7 did I reconsider. When he started school, we realised he had dyslexia, severe dyslexia, to the point when he was in first class he couldn't read words like cat or dog.
Would you have been able to do this a couple of years ago?
But, like, I would, but it would be hard.
Wait, so this is easy now?
His diagnosis led us to somewhere I never expected to end up, a so-called reading school for kids like him. Places in them are really hard to get, and along the way I've met parents and children with similar issues whose kids can't get a place and continue to struggle in school. And people who are living with dyslexia as adults, with and without the help of reader schools. There are only 4 reading or reader schools in Ireland, 3 in Dublin and 1 in Cork. There's also 14 reading classes attached to some schools.
A reading school or a reading class is a provision of extra support where a young person would go to sometimes a different school where there is a higher amount of support available. There's a pupil-teacher ratio of 9:1. And it's for children who are very severely affected by dyslexia.
So everybody, let's practice tapping out this word together. Are we ready?
Children with dyslexia have difficulty hearing sounds in words. So we teach them how to tap out and bring it down really into the very basics and then build up from there. But I think the most important part of everything is that the confidence that they gain from being with us.
Typically, students attend a reading school for 2 years, between the ages of 8 and 12, then return to their regular schools or move on to secondary.
In order to get a place in our school, you have to have a psychological report, and the IQ has to be in the average or above average range. And then we look at particular literacy scores. So there's part of the report that the psychologist does would have the IQ part and then a literacy score. Okay, so we look at the lowest literacy scores.
A psychological report includes a standardised literacy test. What really surprised me as a parent was just how severely dyslexic a child needs to be in order to access a place in a reader school. Because there are so few places, the schools need to have a system to rank who needs the place most. Literacy levels are measured in percentiles, meaning you're measured against your peers.
We have to prioritise, obviously, the children who are really at the very lowest level of reading. It could mean that it's the difference between being able to read 3 or 4 words as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 words. You know, so it's very slight, but we have to be very strict that we keep to our enrolment policy because there are so many people looking for places.
There hasn't been a reading class or reading school opened in, to our knowledge, at least a couple of decades. So there's really no new strategy about how to meet this specific need of children who are severely affected by dyslexia.
I've seen firsthand the improvement children can make in a reading school. Once parents get a place, they send their children from all around Leinster into St Rose's in Tala. Jennifer Nolan's son Nathan travels from Wicklow town. The journey can take up to an hour and a half each way.
It was kind of earlier on, like he was maybe 6. It was just reading numbers off of like the washing machine. He was reading them backwards, or he was doing like a B instead of a D.
Drop it and fetch it and drop it again. I'm a stick man, that's me.
It is a long day, but I'm sure you've seen some amazing benefits.
Huge. Like, he has just grown so much in confidence. It's actually, like, it kind of upsets me, but obviously in a happy way, because this time 2 years ago he was nowhere near like confident in reading, and like even my phone, he takes it out and he tries to read my messages, which obviously no one wants that, but I'm delighted when he does it because I just see like he's come on so much, and even he wants to read, like he enjoys it now, whereas before if you had a book in front of him he'd nearly cry, like it was just no.
Parents and teachers say many kids who have really severe, just not quite the most severe dyslexia, miss out on places at a key time in their education and development. Dominique Kane's daughter Amelia is 9 years old. Her reading ability has deteriorated massively in the last year. She hasn't got a much needed place in a reading school.
December 2023. She was at percentile 14%. But then they then told me that it actually probably isn't bad enough for her to get a place in a reader school. Situation at home was just a nightmare. Like daily, it took an hour, 2 hours, tears, tantrums, cartwheels across the floor. I don't want to do homework. I can't do this. I don't want to go to school. You know, not wanting to get out of the car in the morning. Just terrible. So I found that very, very tough, but I was in limbo. I literally did not know there was anything else that I could do but just send her into school like a normal student.
In the time since she was first assessed, Amelia's literacy dropped further and school became a greater struggle and cause of upset.
When you got the first report done, she was at 14 percentile. And where was she when you got the second one done?
So in the space of a year, 9 months, she's now at 2% percentile. So she has deteriorated rapidly in a year. And that does not even guarantee us a place in a reader school being at 2%, which it's just so difficult. There just needs to be more options for children with dyslexia. There's just not enough places, there's not enough support, I don't think. I really don't know an awful lot of what is out there for us, for help for her.
We asked the Department of Education about their plans for additional reading schools. They told us it is department policy that to the greatest extent possible, pupils with additional learning needs are supported in mainstream classes along with their peers, with additional supports provided as necessary.
From speaking to the parents of children with dyslexia, one of the things that really struck me was the impact it had on their confidence heading into their teenage years. I never really thought about it much until it impacted my family. And now, working in sport, I often meet athletes with dyslexia, some of whom went to reader schools that really benefited them.
For those in mainstream schools, learning was an uphill struggle.
Oh, that's terrible. Donaghy! Goal! Second goal for Kerry!
Former Kerry footballer and international basketball player Kieran Donaghy had difficulty with words growing up.
I enjoyed school, but obviously struggled very much with the academical side. But back in the day, there was hard times. You were put out facing the corner of the room because you were obviously acting up because you couldn't follow along. Maths, I would have struggled with numbers a bit, but Irish was the big one that I just really couldn't get. Obviously the spelling, you know, sound out the words, all this thing. Obviously it's harder in Irish, and I remember just being completely lost in class. I failed maths the first time I did the Leaving Cert, repeated 6th year, more so to play basketball probably again, and yeah, it was kind of like I wanted to obviously get my Leaving Cert, so I was like, okay, I'll go back and repeat, and then I failed it again, unfortunately. And then obviously with the diagnosis when I got it and knew what was going on, so yeah, I was after winning my first All-Ireland medal, and then I was the following year I was sitting down inside in a Leaving Cert class with fellas looking across at me trying to do maths. But I just wanted to get the leave, and I probably wanted to prove to myself that I could probably do it.
Kieran has now finished up coaching Armagh and is now with Kerry. He was never taught the techniques of a reader school, and dyslexia still affects him.
If I was writing stuff on a board or a review after a game and someone said something and I was coming to that spelling, I'd kind of turn into the doctor's writing to kind of, I'd be like, I'm not sure of the spelling. I think I am, but I wouldn't have the confidence to commit to the spelling. So the writing might get a little squiggly in that word or whatever. So that'd be probably the biggest area when you're up writing in front of people would be the area that'd catch me most.
Hansen delayed it on the outside. Jack Conan! Jack Conan! Origin again!
I suppose I would have been pretty young, 5, 6. Anytime I had to speak publicly in class or stand up and read, I would have had a bit of confusion swapping words in and out of texts or adding letters in, things like that.
Jack Conan plays rugby for Ireland, Leinster and the Lions. He and his twin sister Emily spent a year at St Oliver Plunkett Reading School in Monkstown.
Looking back, it just gave me a lot of confidence. You get better understanding of yourself as well, even at that young age. Better understanding how to improve and to kind of upskill a little bit, especially with reading, because I would have been probably a little bit anxious to get up and speak publicly or to read out in front of the class or anything like that, or would have struggled to do a lot of homework and needed probably extra help and even time with a teacher in class. So yeah, myself and my twin sisters are very close, but we both would have struggled with reading probably in different elements when we were younger. But when we went to St. Albert Plumwood City Year, I suppose the difference it made for me was gradual, but when she went, it was kind of a drastic change. You know, she left after that year, and she was kind of a fanatic reader, and probably something she would never been before that.
A lot of the people that we've met with dyslexia and are adults now have a real determination to succeed because things were tough when they were younger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think not that you would have been ever kind of undervalued or dismissed when you're younger, but when you're kind of struggling that little bit at that age, I think it can take a knock to your self-confidence, and you want to prove people not wrong a little bit, but you want to prove your worth a little bit more, and I definitely found that with the case with myself.
Living with dyslexia can be a challenge for all the family. In my case, with 4 children, dividing time equally between them is impossible, but there are solutions that can make life easier for everyone.
I think there's a range of things that we would be advocating for, including making sure that teachers are adequately trained about dyslexia. And there's a huge issue also about assessment. There is a state assessment service, but it in no way meets the demand for that service. So we're completely dependent on private providers providing assessments, which means from a social justice point of view, the family income will dictate far too much whether a young person is appropriately identified. The other issue is we're waiting too long to identify children and young people. There seems to be this idea that you have to wait till the end of primary school before being absolutely certain that it's dyslexia. That's a waste of time, and it massively impacts on the chances of success with literacy, and also we're often picking kids' confidence and self-esteem off the floor at that point.
Back in St. Rose's, Matthew is looking forward to returning to his old school and to show off his new skills. So Matthew, when you go back to your old school, how do you think you're going to be when it comes to reading?
I can't wait, because I'm just going to show, because I know people who from that school, I'm going to more likely be in their class, and they're probably going to be like, wow, how are you that good at reading?